everyone, and welcome to the Behind the Mask program. I am so honored to be here with you tonight. My name is Patty Tavarro. I am an associate professor here at TC3. I also chair the Human Services program, and I want to start off by saying thank you so much to Rhonda for giving me the opportunity to come here tonight and tell you all my story. I have to admit that when Rhonda first reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to do this program, my first response was kind of, I don't know, do you think anyone would find it interesting? But I've gotten some really positive feedback about what we're going to be talking about tonight, and hopefully you will all find it interesting and find a little nugget of information from this that you can take forward, and it will either be meaningful to you or to maybe to someone in your life that you care about who might be struggling with some of the same kinds of issues. So, as you can see, tonight we're going to be talking about the importance of owning your own story and not letting other people's opinions dictate what direction your story is going to take. So I wanted to start off by saying that it took me a long time to find my own self-worth. And honestly, much like most people, I think, I still have moments of self-doubt and times when I suffer from what's called imposter syndrome, where I feel like maybe I'm just kind of faking it till I make it, and eventually people are going to figure that out. But I think that's a pretty normal amount of self-doubt that comes along with stretching yourself and growing. But what I want to talk about tonight is more about when influential people in your life kind of take the wind out of your sails and convince you, or at least try to convince you, that the path that you want to be on isn't worthy, or that you're not worthy of it. So, this is the Facebook post that actually started this whole conversation. So I do this thing every year around my birthday where I put up various pictures of myself throughout the year, some goofy, some cute. I was cute when I was younger. But this particular Facebook post kind of struck a nerve with me, and I put that in the description for the photo. And the reason for that is that this is my high school graduation photo, and it just so happens that in this photo is my high school guidance counselor. And this is the guidance counselor who I have, for a long time, I have to admit, held a grudge against. And the reason for that is that he's the one who really convinced me that the path that I wanted to go on was not the right path for me. And so what happened was that when I think I was a junior in high school, I went to him and I knew that a lot of the people in my class were getting prepared for their SATs and starting to think about what colleges they wanted to go to. And so I had said to him, I went to his office and I sat down at this round table, and it's funny because I remember it like it was yesterday. And right over here was a whole bookshelf full of all these binders full of college catalogs. And so I was really excited to do this exploring with my guidance counselor and talk to him about what colleges might be right for me. And I had an idea that I might want to be a lawyer. I don't know where that came from, but it sounded cool. And so I went in and I sat down at his table, and he was walking around the room, and I said to him, so I wanted to talk to you about college, because I don't know, no one in my family has ever gone to college, so I don't know how to sign up for my SATs and do all of that stuff. And he came over and he stood behind me, and he patted me on my head, and he said, now Patty, you know that not everyone is smart enough to go to college, right? And I was surprised, because I thought think I'd like to try college. And he said, well, your mom works at a factory, right? Why do you think you're too good to do the work that your mom does? And so I left that meeting pretty disheartened, but with the knowledge, at least at that point I thought was knowledge, that that was supposed to be my path. And so I graduated from high school, and I went to work in the same factory that my mom went to work in. And for a long time, I just accepted that that was my fate, and that's what I was supposed to do. And I want to talk a little bit more about how I kind of broke through that, but I want to talk about that in just a little bit. But the interesting thing about this photo, and the reason that Rhonda and I thought it might be a good topic for tonight, was how many people reached out to me after I said that in my Facebook post and said, oh my God, the same thing happened to me. Some of them had the same guidance counselor, but many did not. Many even went to different schools. So it's not a particular school issue. Some were women, but not all. So it wasn't a gendered issue either necessarily. And some were, I was a kid that grew up in a trailer park, so some were kind of around the same socioeconomic status as me, but some were not. And so it really made me take a step back and really think about, wow, how many people had influential people in their lives who just made presumptions about their ability, and from that presumption stole their story away from them and rewrote it to what they wanted it to be. And so that's what I wanted to talk about tonight. I will also say that I got a lot of really supportive statements sent to me as a result of this Facebook post, which was great. It's always nice to hear people who can see the path that you traveled, see your successes, and see that you have been able to break out of that mold. And I do want to say that I'm in no way saying that working in a factory isn't a viable option for many people. What I'm saying is that I want all of us to be able to make informed choices on our own and not have the people in our lives who might influence us make those choices for us. So, this is two photos that I think represent two significant events in my educational journey. So the first photo is my kindergarten class photo. Of course, that's when I started my educational journey. I'll be honest, I remember very little from that year, except for that I was in Truxton Elementary School, so it was before I moved to the Dryden District. But I remember having this love for learning and such excitement over the attention that I got in kindergarten and, of course, being able to make new friends and everything like that. And then the second photo is my group that I graduated from my master's degree with, which was just 4 years ago, almost to the day. But what I really want to talk about tonight are the almost 45 years in between those two pictures, because those were really formative years, of course, but years of a tremendous amount of change. So I wanted to reflect on my educational experiences. And so what I decided to do was I dug into my old report cards. And I have to give a little shout out to my mom for saving all my report cards, because I'll admit, I did not do that for my kids. But it was interesting to be able to look through and see the path that I took. I'm not gonna lie, there were times when it was disheartening to see some of the comments that were written. But part of the reason that I really wanted to dig into that was because as an educator myself, I wanted to really look at why a single comment from my guidance counselor was that influential to me. Why did one man making a comment about whether or not I should go to college completely derail what my dream was? And so I took a look at these report cards. And what I saw, in some ways, broke my heart. I had to really dig to find any positive comments whatsoever throughout my entire primary education. There were some comments that I chuckled about. You know, Patty would do better if she didn't talk so much. That's fair. However, kind of the joke's on them, because I get paid to talk. But there were also many comments that I had to say were pretty cruel. Things like, finally seeing some improvement from Patty, but it's only because I make her sit alone every day. And I'm thoroughly disappointed in Patricia this marking period. I can only imagine what it was like to take these report cards home to my parents. And I have to say that, I don't know if it's blocking something out, but I really don't have a lot of memory of taking these report cards home to my parents. Other than I knew that they weren't happy with the results. I do know that I've always been a little bit scatterbrained, so to speak. I don't know if I had like some little bit of ADHD or what. So sitting and concentrating has always been a challenge for me. However, I also know that no one ever really asked me if there was a way that I could learn that would be better for me. It was just the assumption that I wasn't trying hard enough. And that was almost every single report card said that. I wanted to actually share with you something else that I found in my report card, just as an example of the way that words from adults can be harmful, even if they're not meant to be. So in 4th grade, I got an award. I don't know if you can see this. Apparently in 4th grade, there was we voted on different things, you know, like we do for senior class, best smile, cutest couple. Apparently, I earned the Certificate of Excellence that says, "Be it known that Patty Roop has been judged the laziest girl by the members of Miss Gailey's 4th grade class at Dryden Elementary School." I have to admit, 53-year-old me, my heart broke when I read that, because I can only imagine what 4th grade Patty felt like when she got that award. And I truly believe that as adults, we don't understand the weight of our words. And for me, that is what I hope to be the big takeaway message in this Behind the Mask talk. Because what I know is that for the rest of my primary school career and afterwards, I had incredibly low self-esteem. As I said, I did go to work at that factory with my mom until I got laid off when Smith Corona moved to Mexico. And then something really amazing happened for me. And I enrolled my kids in Head Start. And for me, it didn't seem like that big of a stepping stone, but it wound up being a huge stepping stone for our whole family. And the reason for that is that I was asked to sit on the parent advisory panel. And I remember saying to my son's home-based teacher, I don't know why I would join anything like that because I have nothing of value to say. And she said, you absolutely do. And then they sent me to New York City to go to this conference. And I feel like that's when something kind of switched in me, where I figured out that that I did have something of value to share, and that maybe there was something that I hadn't tapped into yet. It was that summer that I decided to try taking a class at TC3. I was quite certain that I would not do well. And so I took a summer class and I didn't tell anybody, except my mom, of course, because I told my mom everything. But I expected that I would fail and then I would just go back to work and nobody needed to know. Working at Head Start, I had gotten a job at Head Start. So working at Head Start, I had the summers off. But then this amazing thing happened. I got an A. And I was like, I was pretty sure that the instructor just felt sorry for me because I was such a, fish out of water. And then, but I decided, well, I'll just dive in. And I went to school full time. And I did well. And I met people at TC3 who, again, were interested in what I had to say and who believed in me. My instructors here at TC3 and my advisor were so supportive. And I remember my advisor, Ken McEwen, saying to me that I really should go on and get a bachelor's degree. And I said, no. You don't understand. I need to just get a job. I need to get a degree and get a job and move on. And he said, Patty, I think you sell yourself short. And so I decided I would. And I went to Portland and got my bachelor's, and then I went to work in the field, in the human services field. And so the transformation that happened while I was here at TC3, granted, it was just the start of a long career of transformations that I've had, but it made a world of difference. And it's allowed me to reflect back on these experiences that I had as a younger person and understand the weight of the words of the people who I interacted with. I wanted to share with you just a little bit of information. There is an article, "The Negative Attitudes of Students of Teachers Impact Students," by Bethany Marquin. And so I think that some of these things are obvious. I think that it's the kind of thing that if you really think about it, it's like, well, of course having teachers who are negative will have a psychological and physical impact on the students, right? But I think that we need to even look at that as a larger phenomenon that happens. I feel like any adult who has a part in a child's life has to choose their words very carefully. And of course, we all make mistakes. We're all human. We all have times where we say something to our children or someone else's child where it's like, oh, I wish I could take those words back. But we can't. But what we need to do is just be aware that there are long-lasting impacts on us, on the children, and also on adults. My one really negative experience that I had in my education was when I was taking Math 95. I will say math and I are like oil and water. We're not good friends. We don't necessarily get along. So I took a pre-college math class. And I took it with an adjunct here. And I remember the adjunct saying things to us like, he would walk up and down the aisles when we were taking tests, and he would say, I don't know why you guys are bothering. You're not going to pass. And I think in his way, he thought he was being motivational. But for those of us who were already rocky with the subject, which obviously we were, taking a pre-college math, it was so hard to overcome that and end up being successful in that class. And so it nearly made me decide to give up on college. And so while I think that it's important that we're very careful about the words that we use with children, I think it's equally important that we're really careful about the words that we're using with adults, especially if we are in a position of power. Just very important. But really what I wanted to talk about tonight is the fact that we can write our own stories. The thing is that even if we're looking at this as adults, we can take control of the path that our life is taking. And one of the most beautiful things that we can do is to own our path and to take control of our stories. Someone who I think is just absolutely amazing is Brené Brown. And this is a quote that she put up, and loving through the process of owning our story is the bravest thing we will ever do. Once you own your own story, what you're doing is letting go of the power that other people have over you. Now this can be a little bit scary because what we're saying is I'm owning this. And so I can't any longer blame that guidance counselor for the fact that I didn't go to college, because ultimately I made that choice. And as adults, we have to understand that once we own our choices, we can break free of the baggage that we've been carrying for so long. However, it also means that we can't use that as a crutch. So it does take a certain amount of bravery, but it's absolutely a beautiful thing to do. Rhonda, did we have any questions?
Not yet.
Not yet. Well, if anyone wants to ask any questions, you can certainly feel free to do that. I do have just a few more thoughts. I wanted to share another quote with all of you because I felt like this was an equally powerful quote. And that is, your truth is in no way rooted in the opinions of others. So don't let the opinions of others uproot you from your truth. Stand strong in who you are and let the light you cast be colored with authenticity. If we can find a way to be authentic in our own lives, we will grow exponentially. And we also encourage other people to grow along with us. One of the things that I feel like is a strength of mine as an educator is that I meet my students where they are. And I understand that every single one of my students comes in with their own story, their own experience. And I want them to be able to embrace their experience. But I also want them to know that I'm there to help them walk their path. I'm not going to choose their path for them, but I help them walk whatever path they feel like is appropriate for them.
We have 2 questions now.
Great.
Miss Janet Swinage would like to know if you could write a script for that math teacher, what would it be?
I would, well, what I will say is one of the other things that he did, and I won't name him because, probably folks know him, but one of the other things that he used to do was he would hand out Dum Dum lollipops when we had tests. And he would say that he would hand out Smarties, except for the Dum-Dums are more appropriate. So I would say, by script, I assume that Janet means prescription. So I would probably write him a prescription for maybe some happy pills, because I feel like he could have used them. Because I feel like anyone who feels the need to talk to people who are truly trying in that way probably isn't very happy in their own lives. And so, yeah, he could probably use some happy pills.
Shauna Karn would like to know, did you have any teachers at Dryden who were motivational and or inspirational?
I did, actually. I will say that my 6th grade teacher, Mr. Florence, I really loved Mr. Florence. He was the perfect balance of somebody who would kick me in the butt and get me moving, while also being truly caring. And I think that 12-year-olds are not the easiest people to deal with, and so I felt like he did it with a lot of grace. Another one who I feel like was really helpful for me, I will confess, I had to take 7th grade math 3 times. Like I said, math and I, not friends. My 3rd time I took it with Howie Claflin. And Howie got me through 7th grade math, and made me laugh while I did it, and made me not hate math quite as much. So yeah.
Carrie Hansen would like to know, do you have any advice for students looking for financial help going to college?
What I would say is explore every single opportunity. A lot of times people will assume if they fill out the financial aid application, and we were kind of, when my kids went to college, we were in that middle point where they didn't necessarily get a lot of federal or state aid, but just fill out every scholarship application that you can, and be diligent about it. And I know that student loans are a really touchy subject, but the reality is that if you have to take out a little bit of student loan in order to fulfill your dreams, then ultimately it's all going to work out. But don't let that be a barrier. Don't let finances be a barrier to you being able to fulfill your dreams, because it's just not worth it.
Cassandra Kent would like to say, what is it like to be an amazing teacher?
Well, Cassandra, thank you for asking. I don't know that I'm an amazing teacher. I do know that I genuinely care about my students. As everyone knows, this has been a really tough year for faculty and students alike, and so I'll admit I don't feel like I have been as effective as I would normally be in this remote world. But what I know is that it hasn't impacted the amount that I care about my students. And I think that caring about students is 90% of the battle. Letting them know that I will be their biggest cheerleader. And one of the messages that I feel like is important that I've always given to students is, if you have to step away from school for some reason, that's okay. Just do it in a way that you know that you can step back when you're ready. And I think that sometimes people make students feel like such failures because maybe this isn't the right time for them. There's something going on in their lives or their families' lives where it's just not the right time for them to be in school. But make sure you leave that door open, because when you want to come back, we want you back.
Not a question on here, but I'll ask, what made you choose human services?
That's actually kind of a funny story. When I decided to go to school, I knew that I wanted to be in the helping field. And so I was looking through the course catalog. Back then, we actually had paper course catalogs. Pretty crazy. I was looking through the course catalog and I was looking at nursing and I'm like, I think nurses are amazing. I think they do absolutely amazing work. But I'm also deadly terrified of needles. So maybe not the best choice. So I started reading through the description for human services. And the opportunity to be able to help people and be that support for people. When I was in a place where I was really struggling financially, emotionally, I was really struggling when I first came to TC3. And so I wanted to be the person that I would have liked to have had in my corner.
Shauna Karn has another question, and then I have a clarification from Janet. If you could write a note to your younger self, what would be your biggest talking points? And I think she means more like the 4th, 5th, 6th kind of elementary school, Patty.
If I could write a note to my younger self, it would absolutely be, you're worth it. Because most of my life I didn't feel like I was. And I'm happy to say now that, you know what? I feel like I am. So I wish that as a kid I had felt that.
And Janet said when she was referring to script, she meant better words, so not a prescription.
Oh, well, better words might have been a little more encouraging. So I would have liked to have had, someone who is in a position for teaching pre-college math to understand that I was scared to death to take a math class. And so it would have been nice to have someone more supportive who just said, you know what, guys, give it your best effort. I'm sure you can do it. Thank goodness that pre-college class didn't factor into my GPA because I barely made the C to be able to move on. But yeah, I would have liked more encouragement. And I would hope, well, actually I know, because I know our math faculty. And I know that the math faculty at TC3 now are so much more encouraging than that.
Anna Regula would like to know, when you get discouraged, what do you do to keep going?
I try to, thanks Anna, that's a really good question. I really try to look at the bigger picture, but take smaller goals in mind. So the bigger picture keeps me engaged and energized. And so whether that bigger picture is, figuring out how on earth I'm supposed to get through the semester, but then taking things in smaller chunks. Also, I have to say that I have some amazing supports now that I certainly didn't have when I was younger. I have a fantastic family who is so supportive, and I have great friends that I can be at times slightly inappropriate with, and at times, just reach out to them and say, guys, I'm kind of drowning here, and if nothing else, I get some empathy and some support.
That looks like all our questions from here, unless the audience.
Any questions
No.
from the audience? Okay. Well, I just want to say thank you again to everyone for joining me tonight. I hope that there was some nugget of information that I was able to share. Like I said, I really just want you all to know that